If you're thinking about buying or selling in the East Bay this spring, there are two numbers from the latest data that matter way more than the mortgage rate headline. One of them flipped in Oakland, Emeryville, Piedmont for the first time in a while. The other one makes Berkeley, Kensington, Cerrito, Albany, and Alameda feel a lot more like 2021 than 2023. In this video, I'm going to show you what actually happened as we rolled into the new year, why one part of the East Bay is quietly heating up while another is giving buyers breathing room, and how to use that to avoid overpaying or missing the one house that was actually right for you. And stick with me because a little later, I'll show you which city closed December with buyers paying more than 20% over list on average and why that matters for your February strategy, even if you're not shopping there. I'm Derrick Tyler with the Letterer team at Red Oak Realty. I'm a former attorney and a 13-year top producing East Bay agent. I help buyers and sellers in cities like Oakland, Berkeley, Cerrito, Albany, Kensington, Piedmont, Alameda, Emeryville, and Richmond, and more cities make smart moves using real data, clear strategy, and a very practical plan. If you want awareness of what's really happening, clarity on how that affects you, and direction on what to do next, you're in the right place. By the end of this video, you'll have a simple picture of what's happening nationally and in California, so you're not just reacting to scary headlines, a city-by-city scoreboard for the inner East Bay so you actually understand where things are hot, where they're soft, and where they're just plain weird, and a buyer playbook and a seller playbook for February and March so you know exactly how to move, not just what the numbers are. Let's start wide and zoom in. Nationally, December existing home sales were running at about 4.35 million on an annualized basis with a national median price of roughly $405,000 and about 3.3 months of inventory. So what does that actually mean? We're not in a free fall. We're not in a 2021 style frenzy. We're in this slow, grinding market where serious buyers are still buying and everyone else is waiting for a perfect moment that may or may not show up. On the financing side, 30-year fixed mortgage rates have eased off the peak. As of late January, the national 30-year average is sitting right around 6.1% after bouncing around that low 6 range for several weeks. That's still a real payment, but compared with the 7s we saw not that long ago, it's a noticeable difference over the life of a loan, especially at East Bay price points. Here's the first mini takeaway. The story for 2026 so far is less about will rates crash and more about what happens when buyers realize 5% might not be coming back as soon as they thought. We'll come back to that idea when we talk about buyer behavior in Oakland and Berkeley. Zooming into California, the statewide median single-family home price in December was about $850,000, basically flat to slightly down compared with a year ago. Homes were taking roughly a month to sell on average, and sellers were still getting very close to list price. So on paper, California looks meh. Not a crash, not a boom, just a slow sideways market where strategy matters more than timing the exact bottom. But the inner East Bay does not behave like an average California market. One of the benefits of working here is we get really detailed local stats from Bay East Association of Realtors. And when you look at December for the inner East Bay, you see something interesting. Prices are generally holding or up modestly year over year. Days on market are still measured in weeks, not months. And in multiple cities, buyers are still paying solidly over list on average. So while the state headline is flat and slow, the inner East Bay headline is more like tight inventory, serious buyers, and just enough rate relief to keep prices sticky. Now let's get into the city scoreboard because this is where your decisions actually live. Quick note, I'm going to lean on the most recent confirmed city data, which is December 2025, and layer in what I saw day to day as we moved through January. When you watch this in early February or later, your decisions are going to be based on trend plus live activity, not just 1 month of numbers. Bay East groups Oakland, Emeryville, and Piedmont into one Oakland Res bucket. And December tells a very clear story. About 154 single-family homes closed in December. The median sales price was roughly $877,500, up mid-single digits from the previous December. Inventory at the end of the month sat at about 1.2 months of supply. Average days on market was around 38 days. And here's the big one. On average, buyers paid around 9% over list price. So here's payoff number one. That one number that flipped I mentioned at the beginning, it's how aggressively buyers are stretching over list again in Oakland, even with rates in the sixes. This is not a distressed market. It is a low inventory, still competitive market where good listings, priced correctly and prepped well, are getting multiple offers and strong over-ask results. If you're buying in Oakland, Emeryville, or Piedmont, expect competition on anything that checks roughly 8 out of 10 of your boxes. Focus on total monthly payment and long-term return on investment, not just price. Get clear on what you're willing to pay for a given house before you write so you don't make a huge emotional jump on offer night. But be flexible because that's what it might take to win. If you're selling, you still have leverage if you price realistically and present well. Overpricing by even 3 to 5% in this environment is how you end up sitting on the market longer than you expected and seeing nearby homes listed lower selling faster for the same or more than your target price. Next up is Berkeley and Kensington, which Bay East groups together as well. December numbers look like this. Only about a dozen homes were active at month's end, which is basically no inventory. 43 homes sold in December. The median sales price was just a little over $1.5 million. Average days on market were about 28 days, and buyers paid an average of 16% over list price. Here's payoff number two. This is the city pair that still looks the most like 2021 on paper. Low inventory, short days on market, very strong over list percentages. As a practical matter, that looks like buyers doing deep dives into disclosure packets so they can waive contingencies to make their offers as competitive as possible. Offers that are clean, fast, and often comfortably over the last comp for the best homes. Sellers who prep and price well still seeing big buyer turnout. For buyers in Berkeley and Kensington, you cannot wing it in these cities. Have your financing and pre-approval dialed in and be ready to move fast when the right house hits. Understand that list price is not market value here. Treat it as an opening invitation, not a prediction. For sellers, this is one of the few sub-markets where you can still get a pretty exceptional result if you lean into preparation, staging, and a smart pricing strategy. Doing no prep or cutting corners on prep can be a 5-figure mistake here. Let's talk El Cerrito because it sits in this interesting spot between competitive and approachable. It's also my hometown. December looked like this. 17 single-family homes sold. End of month inventory was 4 homes, or about 0.2 months of supply. Median sales price landed at $1.2 million, which is essentially flat compared with the previous December. Average days on market were about 27 days, and buyers paid about 11% over asking price. So prices are holding, not exploding, but competition is real on the good listings. If you're trying to buy in El Cerrito right now, this is one of those moments where you probably won't steal a great house, but you may be able to get into the neighborhood you want without 15 offers on every listing, especially on the homes that need a little work. A great Berkeley, Kensington alternative. If you're selling, you're in a strong position, but pricing and presentation still matters. The spread between priced right and sits for 3 weeks and gets chipped away is not huge in dollar terms, but it is huge when it comes to term, like inspection, loan, appraisal, and insurance contingencies, and days to close. Albany is tiny, so every closed sale moves the data around, but December was still revealing. 8 homes sold, just 1 active listing at month's end, or about 0.1 months of inventory. Median sales price was about $1.237 million. Average days on market were around 19 days, and buyers paid 22% over list price on average. This is the city I was hinting at when I said we talk about a place where buyers were paying more than 20% over list on average. Albany remains incredibly supply constrained. For buyers, that means focus on lifestyle fit and school fit first. Be realistic that getting a deal here usually means getting the house, not getting it below list. For sellers, it's simple. Do not confuse strong demand with invincibility. A well-marketed, well-prepped Albany listing can still outperform the average in this already strong market. Jumping to Alameda, December stats. 19 single-family homes sold, about 9 active listings, or about 0.4 months of inventory available. Median sale price came in around $1.225 million. Average days on the market were roughly 32 days, and buyers paid about 11% over list price. So Alameda sits in that cozy zone where the island premium is still very real. Inventory is tight and buyers are still willing to stretch for the right combination of house, neighborhood, and ferry access. Finally, let's touch on Richmond, which often functions as the value pressure valve for the inner East Bay. December looked like this: 41 single-family home closings, about 68 active listings, or 1.5 months of supply, median sales price around $670,000, average days on market of 37 days, and buyers paying roughly 6% over list. So Richmond is one of the better places to look when a buyer is priced out of Albany, El Cerrito, or North Oakland, but still want East Bay access, yards, and some appreciation potential. What I'm seeing as we move through January is that value-oriented buyers are watching Richmond very closely, especially those willing to trade a bit more commute or project work for a lower entry price. At the same time, I'm also seeing buyers who are really sticking to their guns for the neighborhoods that they're looking for and doing what they feel like they can in order to stay there. They're still branching out, taking a look here or there, but are really wanting to stay where they like to stay. Now that we've looked at the scoreboard, let's talk about how January actually feels in real conversations. Here are 3 patterns I'm seeing over and over again. We'll buy this year if the right thing shows up. A lot of buyers are not trying to time the exact bottom. They're trying to balance rates, life timing, school years, and long-term return on investment. 2, sellers are more open to planful prep, not panic selling. Most potential sellers I'm talking with are asking, what do I need to do now so that when I'm ready in April, May, or June, we're not scrambling? Everyone is tired of doom headline. People don't need more noise. They need clarity on their specific neighborhood and their specific area and what that means in dollars and days on market. That's why I structure these updates the way that I do. You do not need to memorize all the numbers. You need to know how to make one good decision in the context of those numbers. So here's my buyer playbook for February and March. If you're planning to buy in the next 60 to 90 days, here's how I'd approach it based on what we just walked through. Step 1, get real about your monthly payment, not just the price. With rates hovering around 6.1%, small changes in rate move your payment, but not as dramatically as an extra $100,000 on price at East Bay numbers. Build a range where you know at this payment, we're still sleeping at night and still funding the rest of our life. Step 2, pick your A and B cities. A city might be Berkeley, El Cerrito, Albany, or an Oakland neighborhood you love. B city is your backup where the math works more easily, like other parts of Oakland or Richmond. The goal is to avoid being emotionally attached to one zip code if the inventory just does not show up there this spring. Step 3, learn the average price over asking for your neighborhood and type of home you're looking for. In Berkeley, Kensington, Albany, and parts of El Cerrito, 10 to 20% over list price is still very real on really nice homes. In other spots, you might see closer to 3 to 7% over list, or even at list, and sometimes even under list for homes that need work or have been sitting on the market for longer than 2 weeks. Knowing these patterns ahead of time keeps you from overreacting when you see a big over-ask close in your target neighborhood. Step 4, decide your walkaway rules before you write, but don't absolutely commit to them because you never know. Instead of guessing in the moment, decide in advance. We'll stretch to X if it has yard plus office. We will not waive Y contingency under any circumstances. Although, for the right house, you might have to. We have to be honest here. That way, offer night is more about executing a plan and not so much fighting, but it can just be unavoidable at times, so keep that in mind. Quick pause here. If you want help building a personalized February or March buying plan for one of these East Bay cities I mentioned, I host open office hours. If you're on your phone or your laptop, there's a link in the description where you can grab a time on my calendar. If you're watching this on a TV, you can text hours to the number on screen and I'll send you the same calendar link. Even a 10-minute conversation can save you weeks of guesswork on neighborhoods, pricing, and offer strategy. Here's my seller playbook for February and March. If you're thinking about selling in 2026, here's how I would use this data. Step 1, decide if you're a spring launch or a summer launch. If your life allows it, letting your prep begin now and targeting April or May can work very well in our market. If school or work timing pushes you to late summer, the plan is different but still very workable. Step 2, build a prep and pricing plan around your micro market. In Berkeley, Kensington, Albany, and Alameda, you're still in an environment where good things can produce great results, even in a sideways rate environment. In Oakland, El Cerrito, and Richmond, thoughtful staging, repairs, and pricing often mean the difference between solid result in 7 to 10 days and lingering on the market and being negotiated down. Step 3, use the right comps, not just the highest comps. When we sit down, we're not just looking at the one jaw-dropping sale on your street. We're looking at how many buyers are active in your price price range, how quickly they're riding, and anticipating what kind of contingencies they may end up riding with. Step 4, remember that buyers still care about feel. Even in a market where people are paying 11 to 22% over list in some cities, they're doing it for homes that feel well cared for, well presented, and move-in ready in the ways that matter to them. So let's land this plane with 3 big ideas. 1, national and California headlines are slow and sideways, but the inner East Bay is still very competitive where inventory is tight. Rates around 6.1% are not cheap, but they're lower than last year's peaks. 2, city level data matters. Oakland, Emeryville, Piedmont, Berkeley, Kensington, El Cerrito, Albany, Alameda, and Richmond are all telling slightly different stories in their December numbers, especially around over asking price percentages and days on market. Your strategy should match your neighborhood, city, and micro market, and your timeline. Buyers need clarity on payment, city hierarchy, and overlist patterns. Sellers need a prep and pricing plan that reflects how buyers are actually behaving this winter, not just what Zillow estimates say. So, if you're planning to buy or sell in Oakland, Berkeley, El Cerrito, Albany, Kensington, Piedmont, Alameda, Emeryville, Richmond this year, and you found this video helpful, here's what to do next. First, hit subscribe so you don't miss the next market update or any of the deep dive videos I'm putting out on neighborhoods, offers, and negotiation strategies. Second, if you want a personalized February game plan for your situation, use the link in the description or text the keyword on screen and we'll set up a really quick call. I'm here to help you make informed decisions and make a smart move in the East Bay, not just react to headlines. One of the best decisions you can make is starting a home search right. But where do you even start? Do you find an agent? Do you go to open houses? Get pre-approved first? I go through the process step by step in this video right here. Thanks for watching.